They say Rome never truly fell, it just sank. At first, all you see is calm water, sunlight trembling on the surface of an Italian bay. But beneath it shadows line up too perfectly, like streets drawn by a ghost. A diver exhales, bubbles rise, and the camera follows him down, through the blur of blue into another world. Pillars emerge, statues stand where waves should move. One marble face still smiles after 2,000 years, covered in coral like a veil. His light drifts across mosaics that once held footsteps and laughter. You can almost hear them, children running, sandals tapping on stone. For a moment, the sea becomes a mirror. You don't see ruins. You see people, their hands, their hopes, frozen in motion. The diver reaches out. His glove touches a carved inscription, Vita brevis, life is short. Above him, sunlight bends through the water like time itself trying to remember. And you realize this isn't a myth. It's a city that still breathes under the sea. Before the sea claimed it, Baiae was called the paradise of Rome, a shimmering city of marble and mirage, where emperors escaped duty and poets came to dream. Morning sunlight slid across white terraces, glinting off mosaics wet with dew. The air smelled of olives, honey, and salt. Merchants called from shaded stalls, their voices rising above the hum of fountains and the clatter of sandals on stone. Children darted between columns, laughter echoing off painted walls that told stories of gods who once walked among them. In the grand bathhouses, steam drifted through vaulted halls like breath from the earth. Old men argued the empire's fate, their words softened by heat and laughter. Lovers whispered behind curtains of vapor. The sculptor worked by the window, chiseling Neptune's grin as his son watched, believing the sea itself might pause to admire. When dusk came, the bay shimmered gold. Musicians played by candlelight, the air thick with wine and song. A woman leaned from her balcony, smiling at her reflection on the still water, a reflection destined to last longer than she would. People in Baiae lived as if time were their servant. The ground felt solid, the sea gentle, the sky eternal. No one noticed the faint tremors underfoot, the sulfur rising in the night. No one heard the hum beneath their laughter. And why would they? In a city built on beauty, the idea of loss was unthinkable, until paradise began to sink. It began quietly, the kind of quiet that hides beneath routine. A glass trembled on a marble table, barely enough to notice. Someone laughed, blaming the sea breeze. By noon, the fountains no longer sang, they stuttered, their streams breaking into uneven gasps. The crystal water that once danced now hissed faintly, as if the earth itself were whispering below. At the pier, a fisherman leaned over his boat, eyes narrowing at the strange bubbles rising through the calm. The water shimmered wrong, oily, restless. He crossed himself and rowed back, though he couldn't say why. In the sculptor's workshop, the chisel quivered in his grasp. The marble beneath it felt warm, pulsing like living skin. Inside the baths, laughter turned uneasy as steam thickened. The air grew heavy, sticky, carrying a scent no one could name, sulfur, old and sharp. A senator's wife dropped her bronze mirror when the floor trembled. The crack of glass against tile seemed to echo forever, as if the sound was falling through layers of time. Animals felt it first. Dogs barked and backed away from the fountains. Birds circled low over the bay, then vanished inland. Still, the people of Baiae smiled. The gods are stirring, they said. They always do. Musicians played softer now, strings trembling between notes. Then, as the sun sank, the sea pulled back, slow at first, revealing sand untouched for ages. Children ran to chase the retreating waves, laughter bright against the thickening air. Their parents watched from the steps, a strange unease settling in their bones. No one noticed the low hum rising beneath their feet, the sound of breath, deep and ancient. The earth inhaling, holding, waiting. It happened in one breath, too fast for anyone to pray. The first sound was not a crack or a scream, but a deep, rolling groan from beneath the marble foundations, like the earth remembering its own voice. The floor heaved. Mosaics shattered into glittering fragments under frantic feet. Columns bowed and swayed before snapping in two. In the harbor, the sea convulsed outward, the water rising in spirals before collapsing back with the fury of a god awakened. Ships spun like toys, their masts splintering, sails catching fire as boiling water swallowed them whole. The sky turned the color of molten iron, reflecting a city that was already being erased. A mother held her child as the bathhouse imploded around her, steam fusing with dust until the air itself became unbreathable. Statues of emperors and gods fell in slow motion, their stone eyes shattering first. People ran, but there was nowhere to go. The streets folded, the ground opened, and the world screamed in silence. Marble cracked like ice. Fire burst from the earth, liquid and blinding, then vanished beneath the returning tide. A villa slid whole into the water, its lamps still burning beneath the surface, flickering like underwater constellations. From above, Baiae fractured like glass under pressure. From below, it was a cathedral collapsing in perfect rhythm. Bodies rose beside furniture, jewels, scrolls, all drifting together in the churning gold of destruction. A sculptor reached through the smoke for his son's outline, saw it blur once, then disappear into the light. Every sound dissolved into the roar of boiling water, every heartbeat echoed inside the bones of the dying city. Then silence. The kind of silence that erases memory. Steam hung over the bay as the sea folded itself shut, sealing Baiae beneath its skin. Hours later, the world above moved on. The tide calmed, the sky cleared. Only a faint shimmer betrayed what slept below. Centuries passed, sand thickened, coral grew, and the city remained, preserved mid-motion, a frozen gasp between life and oblivion. When divers descended 2 millennia later, their flashlights cut through the murk to reveal walls still standing, archways perfect, a marble hand reaching upward as if asking for air. Fish swam through doorways, light spilled through collapsed ceilings like memory made visible. And as the divers hovered in silence, cameras blinking, the sea seemed to whisper, soft, eternal, that nothing truly dies. It only waits quieter beneath the surface. The sea is calm again, smooth as glass, hiding its sorrow in plain sight. You wouldn't know that an entire city sleeps beneath, a city of marble dreams and forgotten voices. No smoke, no ruin, only the soft hum of water tracing the ghostly veins of streets that once echoed with sandals and laughter. Sunlight drifts through layers of blue, breaking into ribbons that dance over the ruins. The golden shimmer catches on collapsed arches, on statues half buried in sand, on the outlines of a marketplace now tended by coral instead of merchants. Fish glide through doorways where senators once debated the empire's future, their scales flashing like fragments of old mosaics. Seaweed drapes balconies where silk once fluttered in the breeze. A diver descends, a slow shadow falling through centuries. His light touches the face of Neptune, now softened by time, eyes turned upward as if still waiting for prayers. He reaches out and brushes a fallen column. Silt blooms around him, a delicate storm, then fades, like memory deciding what to remember and what to release. The sound of his breathing becomes the only rhythm left in Baiae. Each exhale rolls through the halls like a ghost sighing its last apology. The water is still, but it feels alive, listening. A statue rests near the seabed, its lips parted, frozen in mid-speech. The diver hovers, waiting for it to finish. No sound comes. The sea has learned to keep its secrets. Above, boats drift lazily under the sun. Children play, their laughter rippling across the surface. None of them know they float above a city that still dreams. And if you dive deep enough past the coral, past the silence, you might hear it. Not the collapse, not the scream, but what came after, the quiet breath of a world that never truly died. A silence so vast, it remembers everything. 2,000 years later, Baiae still breathes, not through air or sound, but through memory. Beneath the calm blue of the bay, the drowned city endures in silence, its stones remembering what voices have long forgotten. When divers ascend, the light blinds them, the same sun that once glimmered on marble colonnades and gilded mosaics. They pull off their masks, faces pale with awe, sea salt clinging to their skin. In one's hand, a small tile red, white, and blue catches the light. The colors are faint, but they still whisper of fire, of art, of hands that shaped beauty believing it would last forever. From above, the bay looks ordinary, a postcard of peace. Fishing boats drift lazily, gulls wheel and cry, children skip stones that vanish with tiny rings. But each ripple touches the ruins below, spreading across centuries, time reaching down to touch its own reflection. We call them ruins, as if they belong to the past. But the past is never gone, it lies just beneath us, waiting, patient, like the tide before it turns. Perhaps Baiae didn't drown, perhaps it simply fell asleep, wrapped in silt and light. Maybe that is what all great civilizations do, collapse not from disaster, but from the stillness that follows too much perfection. The camera sinks again beneath the waves. Sunbeams pierce the water, turning the ruins into a city of gold. Roads stretch like veins beneath coral. A doorway still stands open, inviting no one. A statue kneels in eternal prayer, its lips parted, unbroken. A ring, impossibly preserved, gleams faintly on a marble hand, the last heartbeat of what once was. The narrator's voice softens, fragile yet steady. We build our worlds believing they'll outlive us. But time doesn't destroy, it remembers. Every wall we raise, every word we speak, becomes part of the ocean's breath. Music fades into the hush of waves. The final image lingers, sunlight cascading through the water, brushing the marble road like forgiveness. And then, the last whisper, barely human, it wasn't the sea that took them. It was silence, the kind that comes when a civilization forgets to listen.